Screen. Good evening.
I guess not. How the socks are coming.
Oh, yeah. So I finished the first one.
Oh, look, you are good. That heel that's hard and oh my God, look at that. Beautiful. She's a pretty cute. That is gorgeous.
Isn't that fun?
That is just gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, so I will get them done in time for Christmas, so that's good.
Are they a gift or they're yours?
They're a gift.
Yeah.
I actually started them back in May, and I got about halfway through them, and I realized that I was doing my stitches wrong,
Oh.
and I was like, I have to frog these entire things. So they were going to be a birthday gift for my mom in June, and then I was like, I have to undo everything. So I was like, just waiting for Christmas, I guess. So I will have them for Christmas.
And she
Hi.
loves it.
Well, she picked out. We actually went to the store and she picked out.
Okay.
She really likes like pinks and especially like this magenta color. She really loves that. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
That is so true.
I like this t-shirt.
How about my T-shirt?
I was gonna say I like that shirt.
Oh, wow.
It was a birthday present from my mother-in-law. So.
Oh, I love it.
I was telling her that there's another shirt that I wanted. It says, "It's all fun and games until somebody ends up in the lake of fire."
Greg, talk about you're dressed perfectly for the occasion. Talk about being dressed for the occasion. She is.
All right, I guess we can go ahead and get started. It's 7:01 roughly.
I'll shut the doors.
I'll get this one.
Thank you. I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, it seems to be. So if somebody's online, if you could text and or chat and tell me if the audio is working, that would be great. And if nobody's online, then I won't know. So. Okay, so we're looking at books 7 and 8 tonight. Book 7 starts with the third invocation. And I highlighted it just now because I think it's a good thing to go over. Where Milton says, "Descend from heaven, Urania, by that name, if rightly thou art called, whose voice divine following, above the Olympian hill I soar, above the flight of Pegasean wing." So he's asking for, is it working? Okay.
It's working.
Um,
Plugged into it.
So he's invoking Urania. Has anybody heard of Urania before? So Urania is the muse of astronomy and astrology who played with wisdom before the throne of God. Now, basically, through this whole invocation, Milton is invoking Urania and saying, what happened after Raphael explained Satan's rebellion? Why invoke Urania? Well, if we go down a little bit later, we see the next sentence, the meaning, not the name, I call. For thou nor of the muses nine, nor on the top of old Olympus dwellest, but heavenly born before the hills appeared, or fountain flowed, thou with eternal wisdom didst converse, wisdom thy sister, and with her didst play in presence of the Almighty Father, pleased with thy celestial song. He's not calling Urania the muse, because he says the meaning, not the name, because the word Urania actually means heavenly. So he's basically being very creative in how he calls on heaven to give him this information. So it's kind of a variant of saying, "Oh, Holy Spirit." So, and it's kind of a roundabout way of getting to it. But, and I mean, he even says it's the meaning, not the name that I'm invoking, which it's a fine distinction, but okay. Oh, great. I get a message. The audio seems fine. Okay. So that is from lines 1 to 69, and that is the third of the 4 invocations. Go down to 70 to 108. Great things and full of wonder in our ears, far differing from this world, thou hast revealed, divine interpreter. Adam is thanking Raphael for what he's told him. He's basically saying, what you've told me is otherworldly. It's fantastic. He's like, thank you. So he's very happy about being told this. He says, the more they know, the more they can worship and honor God. He then asks Raphael about the origin of heaven and why he created the universe. That's up to line 108. Raphael says that Adam wouldn't understand, but he would relate what he could. He says, after the Son's victory, when Satan and his followers were cast into hell, God looks over the victorious throng and he speaks. 139 to 161. At least our envious foe hath failed, who thought all like himself rebellious, by whose aid this inaccessible high strength, the seat of deity supreme, us dispossessed, he trusted to have seized, and into fraud drew many, whom their place knows here no more. Yet far the greater part have kept, I see, their station. So at this very beginning, he's saying, hey, Satan failed at least. That's good. And we still have a whole large group of angels with us. Heaven, yet populous, retains numbers sufficient to possess her realms, though wide, and this high temple to frequent with ministries due and solemn rites. But lest his heart exalt him in the harm already done, to have dispeopled heaven, my damage fondly deemed, I can repair that detriment, if such it be to lose self-lost. And in a moment will create another world, out of one man, a race of men innumerable, there to dwell, not here. So what he's saying essentially is that Satan might say, I have depleted your ranks, and this is a good thing. He's thinking he frustrated God. But God's saying, I can make another world in no time. So, and he says, I can populate this with another group of people, and it won't make any difference to me. I like how he says, to have dispeopled heaven. Dispeopled. So God says he'll create another world out of one man, a race of men innumerable, to live there and not in heaven. And they will remain until by degrees Ooh, that's an interesting thing. He says, uh, I can repair that detriment if such it be to lose self-lost, and in a moment create another world out of one man, a race of men innumerable, there to dwell, not here, till by degrees of merit raised, they open to themselves at length the way up hither, under long obedience tried. This makes me go, What he's basically saying is they will remain on earth until by degrees they open up a way to heaven under long obedience. What does that sound like? Bless you. Bless you. No, not purgatory. What is it they have to do to get into heaven from earth? Besides long obedience,
Like have to do meritorious.
yes. Yeah. He's saying, till by degrees of merit raised, they open to themselves at length the way up hither. Works. Hold the phone. Milton, dude, really? He knows the gospel.
Yeah, he was I would say anti-Catholic. He wasn't on board with Catholic,
Right.
which seems to lean more towards works.
So the way to spin this, I hate to use that, but is to think that by obedience, and you can substitute obedience for love of God. So by obedience, over the long haul, you find yourself true to God, and the stuff that you do, as they say, builds up treasures in heaven. It's not necessarily to get there,
Yeah, because they don't need salvation at this point.
right?
Same with Paul.
Exactly.
Isn't the same definition of obedience that's kind of alluded to earlier? Am I getting things gross?
Yeah, when Raphael describes the fall of the angels, he talks about their disobedience. So he's saying your obedience or your fealty or your love for me is what will keep you in good stead.
Right. When Raphael was explaining that to Adam,
Yeah,
it seems like these definitions run parallel.
I think they do. So we can look at it one way and say he's talking about works, and another way we can say it's not the works that give you the salvation, it's the obedience. It's the works that build up your treasures.
So it's almost like more like a sanctification process.
I would say so, yeah. I guess Milton didn't want to throw that word in there, but and then at the end of this, he's in yeah. And thou, my word, begotten Son, by thee this I perform. Speak thou, and be it done. My overshadowing spirit and might with thee I send along. Ride forth, and bid the deep within appointed bounds be heaven and earth. Boundless the deep, because I am who fill infinitude, nor vacuous space. Though I, uncircumscribed myself, retire and put not forth my goodness, which is free to act or not. Necessity and chance approach not me, and what I will is fate. It's interesting. So an earth will be changed into heaven, heaven to earth, one kingdom, joy and union without end. And then in 162 to 173, which I just read, he says, essentially, meanwhile, relax, powers of heaven, and you, my word, my begotten Son, I do this through you. Speak, and it shall be so. So he's giving the Son the power of creation. Yes. My spirit and strength go with you, so go forth and fill the void of chaos with this new world. The void and chaos was never empty, since it was filled with my presence. I am creating this world out of my own free will, not from necessity or chance. So he's saying, and at the very end, he says, and what I will is fate. So what is he suggesting? Yeah, I was going to do this anyway. So no matter what Satan did, I was going to do this. So there you go. Go ahead, son. Take it away. So spake the Almighty. God spoke. 174 to 215. God spoke, and it happened immediately. There was rejoicing in heaven upon hearing the Father's will. Good. The Son appeared with all power, crowned with radiance. Heaven's gates opened, and the Holy Trinity went through to create a new world. It's down to 215. There we go. Silence, ye troubled waves, and thou deep, peace, said then the omnific word. Your discord end. The omnific word. What's the omnific word? Sorry? Well, it's God or Christ or the Son, the omnific word. I'm not sure what fic is. Omni being all, it's all something word. All knowing, probably.
My book has a note and it says all creating,
Oh,
but I have no idea. I've never heard that term before.
all creating. Okay. So go ahead. And he says, silence, ye troubled waves, or silence, chaos is over. So with creation, chaos is no longer chaotic. 218 to 242, God creates the universe and then drew the bounds of the earth, and the earth hung on its axis. The way it's described, an earth self-balanced on her center hung, if you see on 242. Essentially, if you picture earth as like a Christmas ornament on a golden chain, and it's just hanging there on its axis. I kind of see God holding the chain. 243 to 260. Wow, that looks familiar. Let there be light. Boom, there you go. God creates light. It takes him up to 260 to say, let there be light, and there was the first morning. It's much more concise in the Bible.
And then line 261, again, God said, let there be firmament.
Yep, God creates the firmament, which is the area surrounding the earth, the atmosphere, I guess, surrounding the earth, and the water. And then he goes and let it divide the waters from the waters, and God made the firmament, expanse of liquid, pure, transparent, elemental air, diffused in circuit to the uttermost convex of this great round. Diffused in circuit to the uttermost convex of this great round. That's fancy speak for it surrounds the earth. It's poetry, so, that's my answer for everything. 276 to 238. To 338. Sorry, that would be going backwards. 276 to 338. The dry land is formed and separates the waters. The earth was formed, but in the womb as yet of waters, embryon immature involved, appeared not. He talks like Yoda. (339 to 386). Again, the Almighty spake, let there be lights high in the expanse of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, and for days, and circling years. So God creates the stars and night and day. I'm not trying to go fast. It's just, he says a lot, but the summary is really short. 387 to 448. And God said, let the waters generate reptile with spawn abundant living soul, and let fowl fly above the earth with wings displayed on the open firmament of heaven. And God created the great whales and each soul living, each that crept, which plenteously the waters generated by their kinds. So he creates animals. On the air, in sea, and on the land. And get down to 449 to 518. The sixth and of creation last arose with evening harps and matin. When God said, let the earth bring forth soul living in her kind, cattle and creeping things, so he keeps creating more animals and plants. The cattle in the fields and meadows green, those rare and solitary, these in flocks pasturing at once. So what do the cows do immediately? Graze. That's what cows do. So it's a good thing God didn't tell Adam how good barbecue is. So. Okay, now we get to the meat of the matter. Line 519 to 564. Let us make now man in our image, man in our similitude, and let them rule over the fish and fowl of the sea and the air, beasts of the field, and over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps the ground. This said, he formed thee, Adam. And this is Raphael talking to Adam. This said, he formed thee, Adam, thee, O man, dust of the ground, and in thy nostrils breathed the breath of life. And in his own image he created thee, in the image of God express. And thou becamest a living soul. Male he created thee, but thy consort female for race. Then blessed mankind, and said, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth, subdue it, and throughout dominion hold over fish of the sea, and fowl of the air, and every living thing that moves on the earth. Wherever thus created, for no place is yet distinct by name. Thence, as thou knowest, he brought thee into this delicious grove, this garden planted with the trees of God, delectable both to behold and taste. He's very wordy. Clearly, let's make man, let him rule over the animals. He says he formed Adam from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. In his own image, he created you, Adam. Then he blessed mankind and said to be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it, and you'll hold dominion over the fish, birds, and everything on the ground. So wherever he created you, and no place had a name at that time, he says, wherever thus created, for no place is yet distinct by name. So no place has a name. But he created you over there. And he gave you freely all of this fruit to eat, anything the ground produces of endless variety. And we go down a little bit further. Wherever thus created for another place, we did that. And freely all their pleasant fruit for food gave thee. All sorts are here that all the earth yields, variety without end. But of the tree which tasted works knowledge of good and evil, thou mayest not. In the day thou eatest, thou diest. Death is the penalty imposed. I think he's emphasizing something here. Beware and govern well thy appetite, lest sin surprise thee, and her black attendant death. Here finished he, and all that he made viewed, and behold, all was entirely good. So even in morn accomplished the sixth day, yet not till the Creator from his own work desisting, though unwearied, returned up to heaven of heavens, his high abode. Thence to behold this new created world, the addition of his empire, how it showed in prospect from his throne, how good, how fair, answering his great idea. So he looks at it and he goes, this was a great idea. Up he rode, followed with acclamation and the sound symphonious of 10,000 harps that tuned angelic harmonies. The earth, the air resounded, thou rememberest, for thou heardst. The heavens and all the constellations rung. The planets in their station listening stood, while the bright pomp ascended jubilant. So God finishes his work, and he goes back up into heaven, and the heavens basically resonate with music in honor and glory to God and the Son. So 565 to 600, God returns to heaven, and the Father and Son sit. And as Milton says, not because they're tired, but because they were done. 601 to 616, creation and the 6 days acts they sung. Great are thy works, Jehovah, infinite thy power. What thought can measure thee, or tongue relate thee? Greater now in thy return than from the giant angels. Thee that day thy thunders magnified, but to create is greater than created to destroy. Who can impair thee, mighty king, or bound thy empire? Easily the proud attempt of spirits apostate, and their counsels vain, thou hast repelled. While impiously they thought thee to diminish, and from thee withdraw the number of thy worshippers. Who seeks to lessen thee against his purpose serves to manifest the more thy might. His evil thou usest, and from thence createst more good. So the angels sing of the creation, and they say, great are your works, God Almighty, your power is infinite. What thoughts can comprehend your greatness or describe you? You are greater now in your return than the giant angels who rebelled. That day your thunder was great, but to create is greater than to destroy. Who can stop you, mighty king, or enclose your empire? You easily repelled the proud rebels, and while without respect they tried to diminish your greatness, and this is key, but you used their evil and turned it to something good. Any questions, comments so far?
No, I'm just really enjoying the imagery there that he's creating. It's just, you know, and I'm sure if we were going through it slower, it would just make much more of an impact. But even at this pace, it really makes an impression.
Yeah, if we had 5 days a week and 4 months, we could do it line by line.
No, but even this, I'm enjoying this is just great.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Okay, 617 to 640. Witness this new made world. So Raphael is saying, witness creation in the seed of man, and man will be happy and persevere. Really? And okay, I'm still going too fast.
You're fine.
I'm not trying to go
Just
fast.
let the Holy Spirit just keep
Yes.
I have a question about something that happens in books.
Go right ahead.
So when he's describing all of the beasts that are being made and stuff, he describes the serpent in 482. But he's just describing just serpent kind, and it says, some of serpent kind, wondrous in length and corpulence, involved their snaky folds and added wings.
Mm-hmm.
So do snakes fly pre-creation?
That's horrifying.
What is this line is that again?
It's in 482. That's where it starts. Minims of nature, some of serpent kind.
Yeah, I think you said it. He's describing dragons.
Okay.
Yeah, this imagery is just fantastic, and this from a blind man, you know? It's just, it's really, it's really.
He's the Beethoven of literature. Wasn't Beethoven, he was deaf, right? It's like,
But yeah.
how do you write that Ninth Symphony and you're deaf? I mean, you just know music that well and your gift is that. So, but that's a good pickup that he describes the serpents and then proceeds to describe dragons. Like, okay. Anything else on book 7?
I just find that the worship piece, what you have highlighted there, it just makes me think, is that going to be how little taste of how worship will be in heaven? You know, it's just something to ponder. Worship, I'm sure it'll take on so many types of personifications, but I just think this is nice that he put this in here because it makes you stop and think,
I particularly like the part where he talks about the Father and Son and the Spirit going back into heaven and the music that just fills the universe.
yes, the harps. I think
The
it's-
harps. I mean, I just picture the good players in our orchestra, which excludes me, but
You included.
the orchestra just, I mean, playing this music that's just so, it just gives you chills.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, I usually sit in the back, but they moved us, so I'm close to the front now. I don't know.
I saw you Sunday on the screen.
Great, thanks.
It caught you just a couple of seconds.
Yeah,
When Raphael was talking about the tree of knowledge and he mentioned sin and death, for some reason I'm getting the impression that sin and death were entities earlier, the way Milton described it.
Mhm.
So is Raphael saying these entities will come into your world?
so sin and death early on were personified. Um, Sin was this woman with, a beautiful face, but the rest of her is just, ugh. And then death was this amorphous cloud of whatever. I don't know that he's carrying that imagery across into that description. I think he's just saying your sin, basically, sin will indwell you and you will die. So
Is Raphael or Milton making the connection that disobedience is sin?
I think so, yes. Or disobedience is bred from sin. Or which came first? I mean, that's, you don't sin until you disobey. Anything else on 7? Any questions from the remotes? Finally got the audio working better. Yay. Thanks to my son.
Ah,
Yeah, got to get somebody who's under 30 to do the tech.
young mind.
Yeah. Okay. Book 8. The angel ended, and in Adam's ears so charming left his voice that he a while thought him still speaking, still stood fixed to hear. So you can imagine Adam is just wrapped with this description of Rapha, and he's just going, "Oh, you're done?" Then, as new waked, thus gratefully replied, "What thanks sufficient, or what recompense equal, have I to render thee, divine historian, who thus largely hast allayed the thirst I had of knowledge, and vouchsafed this friendly condescension to relate things, else by me unsearchable, now heard with wonder, but delight, and as is due, with glory attributed to the high Creator. Something yet of doubt remains, which only thy solution can resolve. When I behold this goodly frame, this world of heaven and earth consisting, and compute their magnitudes, this earth, a spot, a grain, an atom. How does Adam know about atoms? Um, with the firmament compared and all her numbered stars that seem to roll spaces incomprehensible, for such their distance argues their swift return diurnal. Merely to officiate light round this opacious earth, this punctual spot, one day and night, in all her vast survey useless besides. Reasoning I oft admire, how nature wise and frugal could commit such disproportions, with superfluous hands so many nobler bodies to create, greater so manifold to this one use, for aught appears, and on their orbs impose such restless revolution day by day repeated. While the sedentary earth, that better might with far less compass move, served by more noble than herself, attains her end without least motion, and receives as tribute such a sumless journey brought of incorporeal speed, her warmth and light, speed to describe whose swiftness number fails. What is he saying? Okay, so first he starts off pretty simply. Raphael, that was great. Thank you so much. I never would have known about this before. And then he starts getting philosophical. Um, and he goes, something yet of doubt remains, which only thy solution can resolve. So I have some doubts, and you're the only one who can solve these for me. He says, when I look over this wonderful world consisting of heaven and earth and consider their sizes, Earth is a spot, a grain, an atom when considered in relation to the universe. Yes, very good. He says, and all the numbered stars that move through the sky in a way I don't understand, considering their distance, and I only see them at night, merely to provide light to this incomparable earth, this spot, one day and night, and considering all things seems to have no use. So he's basically saying all these things in heaven send light to earth. Why? Is that the only thing they do? Is that the only use for these things? I often wish to understand the reason why nature has so disproportionate things, as with a casual hand can create so many more planets, to use this one for anything, and then to keep them orbiting, moving, while the Earth lies still. Okay, he not really doesn't have the whole picture here. To him, he's standing still, but everything else is moving. He says, while the Earth lies still, wouldn't it be better for Earth to move as well? That's what he asks at the end. And so spake our sire being father, but by his countenance seemed entering on studious thoughts abstruse. So yeah, he's starting to think really out there.
You know, and I get from that, I get the fact that God's handiwork is just so much more than our human mind can comprehend.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's trying to exemplify.
So you think Milton is doing this to make Adam look like he's totally overwhelmed by how all this stuff, and then there's Earth.
Yeah, and he could, of everything that Raphael shared with him, he couldn't wrap his mind around everything. So he hones in on one thing. Isn't that so much like humanity that there's no way we can take it all in. So we get stuck.
Well, so the stuff Raphael tells him about creation, it's basic. It's creation itself is not that complicated when you look at it day by day. I think what Milton might be pointing out is how Adam's intellect is greater than what we're all led to believe. So when you read about Adam in the Bible, you kind of get the idea that he's this simple person.
Oh, I see.
But he's not. He has deep thought, he has intellect, he has the full knowledge of what God gives him.
Oh,
I think that's the point here is he's got this high thought process, and we just kind of go, huh, okay.
right. So he didn't just take the apple from Eve and just.
Right.
I mean,
He's a
say, well,
thinking, processing, intellectual.
that's a good point. Good.
Yeah, Milton believed that Adam and Eve were created, or at least Adam was created with all the knowledge God wanted him to have.
Right.
So, I mean, he had to have something because he had to name all those animals, right?
Right.
So, I mean,
Does
But-
that further build up to the point that Adam's gonna have free will to make that choice to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Is he kind of building
We're-
up to that?
yes. Yeah. So that's, you're getting ahead of me, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good.
I will not ask anyone.
No, please do. Please do. No, you're right. So,
Spoiler.
so you wonder why it takes not 8 chapters to get to the fall.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of stuff that he's describing about the war in heaven and all this stuff going on. But now what he's doing is he's building on the personality of Adam in this case, and later on we'll get into Eve. We've already gotten into Eve a little bit in her vanity, her little bit of pride mixed in. You know, it's below the surface, but it's there. So yeah, he's building up these characters to lead them into the fall. So you kind of go, okay, I can see how Eve got deceived into this. I can see why Adam bought into it. So it's all done with a purpose. And you're right. I mean, it is leading into it.
I think it's a tricky spot to put Adam though, because when you think about it, I mean, you know, Raphael's blown his mind when he described the battle between Satan and God. And now he's describing how the earth was formed and how Adam, you came into existence. And you got to figure at some point Adam's mind's kind of getting blown. And I'm thinking the idea of an imagination. How would Adam develop an imagination based on, you know, the concepts of knowledge that he has? And so these stories and this narrative that Raphael's feeding him, it seems like that's where all those concepts of imagination are starting to grow and spin in his brain. And he's kind of putting together a puzzle on his own to say, okay, I think I'm with you, and the earth should be moving. It shouldn't it? You know, it's almost like
He's reasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right in that all the things that Raphael tells him are helping develop Adam's own intellect, his own questioning, asking questions about, does the earth move? You think it should move, doesn't it move? Everything seems to be moving around us, but he knew Galileo, and what was Galileo's problem? Well, wasn't he the one that said Earth was not the center? I'm not really into science, so anybody? No? Okay. I'll have to look that up. But if Galileo was the one who said the Earth is the center, that would make sense why Adam would think that. Somebody Google that real quick.
I think Copernicus did have a concentric view of the universe as the Earth is the center. Is that right? Or was it?
Are you looking it up?
I think it was
Okay. Well,
It says that this is AI generated. It says that Galileo believed the Earth revolved around the sun,
oh, okay. Well, it still moved though. So
yeah.
which supported the heliocentric theory proposed by Copernicus.
okay. I'm wrong. So okay.
I knew it was something about the earth.
Yeah.
We were
That's
close.
something to do with rotation.
Yeah, there you
Where did we leave off? There. Okay. Getting lost. Okay. 39 to 65. Eve listened quietly and didn't interrupt. She had questions, but preferred to ask Adam. She stands and gracefully steps forward, and Raphael answers. And he says in 66 to 118, Adam, there's some things you need to figure out on your own. Some things are purposefully hidden from you. So in other words, there's things you have to figure out and things you're just not going to get. Ain't that the truth? Okay. 119 to 122. God, to remove his ways from human sense, placed heaven from earth so far that earthly sight, if it presumed, might err in things too high and no advantage gain. So God moved heaven away from earth so that man couldn't presume things too high, which kind of means that no matter how high they built the Tower of Babel, they never would have gotten there. 122 to 178. What if the sun be centered to the world, and other stars by his attractive virtue their own incited dance about him in various rounds? He's saying, it doesn't matter if the sun revolves around the earth or the earth around the sun. Don't worry about things that are hidden. Be content with what you have. So as far as practical life is concerned, it didn't matter which revolved around which. Does it?
I mean, weren't some people burned at the stake for saying that? So that was a relevant comment back then.
That's a good point.
Okay, well, that was persecuted.
Well, he was under house arrest when Milton met him. So 179 to 216. Adam, his curiosity satisfied, replies. He thanks Raphael again for his wisdom and wants to discuss things more useful. 217 to 248. To whom thus Raphael answered, heavenly meek. Nor are thy lips ungraceful, sire of men, nor tongue ineloquent. For God on thee abundantly his gifts hath also poured inward and outward both his image fair. Speaking or mute, all comeliness and grace attends thee. Wow. And each word, each motion forms. Nor less think we in heaven of thee on earth than of our fellow servant, and inquire gladly into the ways of God with man. For God, we see, hath honored thee, and set on man his equal love. Say therefore on, for I that day was absent, as befell bound on a voyage uncouth and obscure, far on excursion toward the gates of hell, squared in full legion, such command we had, to see that none thence issued forth a spy or enemy while God was in his work, lest he, incensed at such eruption bold, destruction with creation might have mixed. Not that they durst without his leave attempt, but us he sends upon his high behests for state as sovereign king, and to inure our prompt obedience. Fast we found, fast shut the dismal gates, and barricadoed strong. But long ere our approaching heard within noise, other than the sound of dance or song, torment and loud lament and furious rage, glad we returned up to the coasts of light ere Sabbath evening. So we had in charge. But thy relation now, for I attend, pleased with thy words no less than thou with mine. Boy, can he blow smoke. So Raphael responds to Adam. He says, you are eloquent, father of mankind, for God has given you abundantly both inside and out. Oh. Speaking or silent, you are attractive and full of grace. Maybe, but each word, each movement and position we think as highly of you as you think of us in heaven. What's he doing? He's yeah. Okay, I mean, I'll go along with that. He's honoring mankind. Seems to me, though, he's going a little overboard. You don't even have to say anything, and you're beautiful. Whoa, back up, dude. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not getting any of this.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't fit.
No,
It doesn't
but
fit the flow
okay.
of the-
So the rest of this is we ask God about mankind ways because we see that God has honored you by giving you the same love he gives us. Speak. And this is the interesting part. Since I wasn't there the day you were created, as I was off to faraway hell on a dangerous and ugly voyage, we were sent in full force, as was our command, to see that none escaped hell and came forth as a spy or an enemy while God did his work. If that happened, he would have brought destruction with creation.
This is probably absolutely ridiculous, but is this Raphael guy totally a traitor? Because it seems to be that he's building up Adam's self-conceit, his pride, making him think that he's all that, and then he's saying, I was set to guard hell so that no traitor gets in, and lo and behold, the next day a traitor gets in.
Well, I think we can honestly say that the traitor got in after Raphael and his men left the post.
Okay.
But yeah,
But this passage, to me, I thought initially this conversation was all about Raphael coming to Adam and warning him not to sin.
right.
So that's why I'm kind of lost here.
So this is actually a literary construct. The idea being that Milton wanted Adam to tell his story, but wasn't sure how to introduce it. So he makes it so that Raphael didn't watch creation, but he was down guarding hell. Now that he's back, he wants to find out from Adam's point of view how he was created.
I also wonder if it's
How?
also to show the limited abilities of the angels. Like Raphael doesn't just know how everything went down because he wasn't there.
Right.
Because if the angels were super powered, then Satan slipping by and doing what we know he's going to do may seem silly. So
Yeah.
maybe this is also to show like they don't know everything.
Right. Well, there's also, sorry. No. Oh, there's a statement here where he says when they get to hell, they see that the gates are shut fast, and they hear the torment. They hear all the bad noises coming from within hell, and they figured we'll just stand here for a little while, and then we'll go back. So once creation's over, he says on the Sabbath day they return. So they're there for a while, and the main reason was to make sure that nobody got out of hell and interrupted God while the creation was going on, and so enraged God that God would destroy whoever came out of hell, because destruction and creation shouldn't go together. Sometimes you need to destroy before you can create, but let's not go there. That's a human construct. But so basically, Raphael is saying, I would be so happy if you told me your story. Adam's like, okay, sure. 249 to 356. Adam recalls the moment he was given life. So spake the godlike power, the angel, and thus our sire, Adam. For man to tell how human life began is hard. For who himself beginning new desire with thee still longer to converse induced me. They're basically saying, it's hard for me to talk about this because, I mean, it was me, but and he gets to the point where he says that God told Adam that the world was created for him. Well, that's a long passage to the short description. 357 to 368. Oh, by what name, for thou above all these, above mankind, or aught than mankind higher, surpassest far that my naming? How may I adore thee, author of this universe, and all this good to man? For whose well-being so amply, and with hands so liberal, thou hast provided all things. But with me I see not who partakes. In solitude what happiness, who can enjoy alone? Or all enjoying, what contentment find? Thus I presumptuous, and the vision bright, as with a smile more brightened, thus replied. So he's saying, what do I call you? For you are above mankind, or anything higher than mankind, that I have no name for. He says, how can I worship you, creator of the universe and all good things? For whose benefit did you so abundantly provide all things? But I see no one else like me. How can I enjoy this creation alone? Where can I find contentment? I was presumptuous to ask, but a bright vision as with a bright smile replied. So this is Adam talking to God saying, I look around and there's not another one like me. What's the deal? I see 2 cows, 2 eagles, 2 horses, and me. This isn't, I think, an effort at comedy, but we'll let you judge that. 369 to 378. What callest thou solitude? Is not the earth with various living creatures and the air replenished with all these at thy command to come and play before thee? You aren't alone. What about all the animals? You can call them forth and they can play before you. You have the whole earth. You're not alone. And Adam is like, okay, I don't mean any offense here. Let not my words offend thee, heavenly power, my maker. Be propitious while I speak. Hast thou not made me here thy substitute, and these inferior far beneath me set? Among unequals, what society can sort? What harmony or true delight? He's saying, okay, I don't want to offend you, but These animals are not on the same level. I can't talk to them. I'm not Dr. Doolittle. They're inferior, far beneath me. Among unequals, what society can sort? What harmony or true delight? Among unequal intellects, how can you have pleasure? It's like, this just doesn't work. Which must be mutual in proportion due given and received. But in disparity, the one intense, the other still remiss, cannot well suit with either, but soon prove tedious alike. So I was like, I can talk to the elephant until I'm blue in the face, but he's not going to know what I'm saying. And likewise, he can say stuff, and I just won't have a clue.
So you mentioned Dr. Doolittle. So in 372, where he says, replenish 371, replenish and all these thy command to come and play before thee. Knowest thou not their language and their ways?
Don't you know what they're saying? Well, God knows,
I see.
but Adam's like, I don't have that knowledge. He says, each consorts with its own kind, such as the lion with the lioness. So appropriately paired, you have them made. A bird cannot converse with a beast, or a fish with a fowl, or an ox with an ape. What's worse is a man with a beast, least compatible of all. Misspell the word. Beast. Okay. Whereto the Almighty answered, not displeased. That's good, he wasn't mad. A nice and subtle happiness I see thou to thyself proposest in the choice of thy associates, Adam. God says that he himself is alone and has been from eternity. Is God alone?
No.
No.
Right.
It's the Trinity.
There
It's
you
the
go.
perfect relationship.
Yes, that's right.
And he says, I can converse with those inferior to me. No kidding. You're God. 412 to 436. Adam says that God is perfect. Is Milton making a statement on the state of society at that time as well?
No.
Possibly.
I was hoping not.
If you can elaborate on that question, I'll answer it. I'm not really sure exactly what you're asking. Which element is he making a statement of society? So 412 to 436. 412, there we go. Adam says that God is perfect and has no deficiency. God has no need to propagate, being infinite already. But man needs one like him, which requires equal love. He asks if God can give him one like himself. So Adam is saying, okay, you're perfect, and that's all well and good, but I need someone like me. So can you do me a favor here?
Makes it sound like that wasn't God's plan, but Adam's the one that came up with.
Well, you're right. You're right. It makes it sound like that, but this part is, to me, this is the humor. Thus far to try thee, Adam, I was pleased, and find thee knowing not of beasts alone, which thou hast rightly named, but of thyself. Expressing well the spirit within thee free, my image, not imparted to the brute, whose fellowship therefore unmeet for thee, good reason was thou freely shouldst dislike. And be so minded still, I ere thou spakest, knew it not good for man to be alone, and no such company as then thou sawest intended thee. For trial only brought, to see how thou couldst judge of fit and meet. What next I bring shall please thee, be assured, thy likeness, thy fit help, thy other self, thy wish exactly to thy heart's desire. What did he say? Well, before that, yeah, basically he's saying that was a test. I wanted you, like you said, I want you to come to your own conclusion. I want you to realize you don't have someone like you, so now you need to ask. a little much, but okay. To me, that's humorous. It's like, okay, you're relying on the creation. Okay, whatever. So he says, I've been testing you, Adam, and find that you understand not only the animals, but yourself. You've expressed well your desire for a mate. I knew it was not good for you to be alone before you said it, and you sought and found no one. I brought you forth alone to test you, to see if you came to this conclusion. What I bring next will please you, similar in appearance, a fit helper, another part of yourself, to be exactly what your heart desires. For a while. That's a good point. Maybe if he comes to that conclusion himself, when Eve is there, he goes, okay, this is good. I needed this, because realizing he's alone and he needs somebody is important. 452 to 459. Mine eyes he closed, but open left the cell of fancy, my internal sight. God makes Adam fall asleep and takes a rib and forms Eve, the most beautiful in the world. Well, the only in the world, but okay, I'll go with that. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Okay. Adam's heart is impacted, not like a wisdom tooth, but it's affected. And what does Eve do? She stands up and walks away from Adam. He says, under his forming hands, a creature grew, man-like, but different sex, so lovely fair, that what seemed fair in all the world seemed now mean, or in her summed up, in her contained, and in her looks. So, this turn hath made amends, thou hast fulfilled thy words, Creator bounteous. Adam thanks and praises God for the greatest gift, who just walked away. 500 to 520. She heard me thus, and though divinely brought, yet innocence and virgin modesty, her virtue, and the conscience of her worth that would be wooed, and not unsought be won, not obvious, not obtrusive, but retired, the more desirable. Or to say to all, nature herself, though pure of sinful thought, wrought in her so, that seeing me, she turned. I followed her. She what was honor knew, and with obsequious majesty approved my pleaded reason. To the nuptial bower I led. Okay, we'll stop there for a second. He says, she heard me, and although she was divinely made for me, her innocence and her virgin modesty, her virtue, and knowing her worth, she left, which made her more desirable. Yeah, okay. He says, her nature pure of sinful thought, or sinless, caused her to turn away. I followed her, and with an obedient strength, I spoke to her tenderly, and she stopped. So he says something to her. Now keep in mind, she's never heard a voice before, so shock, and she understood. So he speaks to her tenderly, and she stops, and he leads her to the bridal bed. I led her, blushing like the sunrise. To the nuptial bower, I led her, blushing like the morn. All heaven and happy constellations on that hour shed their selectest influence. The earth gave sign of gratulation, and each hill. Joyous the birds, fresh gales and gentle airs whispered it to the woods, and from their wings flung odors from the spicy shrub, disporting, till the amorous bird of night sung spousal, and bid haste the evening star on his hilltop to light the bridal lamp. Wow. So they do it, and all creation goes, woohoo! That's what he's saying. You go, Milton. Okay. 521 to 560. Adam basically says, And that's my story. He describes how he and Eve interact and her abilities. Here only weak against the charm of beauty's powerful glance. She looks at him and he goes weak.
Song of Solomon.
Yeah. 561 to 617, Adam continues to tell about the differences between he and Eve. So he recognizes that they are similar, but not the same. And he says, and here's how we're different. And there's a lot of differences, apparently. Yeah, I don't really do it justice by skipping all this language because it's beautifully written. And some of the things would probably make me blush, but it's amazing the way he's describing their relationship, describing how he feels about her.
Who was Milton scribe?
Sorry?
Who wrote for Milton?
So there's two. He had two daughters who wrote for him, plus, which I think maybe they took a break at this point.
That's what I was wondering.
But he also had a professional amanuensis, I think is what they call it. I forget the exact word, but it was a professional scribe. And he had one of those come in to work with him. So it's interesting because there's a picture. I think there was a picture in the presentation I had in the first class of Milton dictating to one of his daughters. Of course, Milton is gray and looks kind of haggard, and his daughter looks lively and vibrant and all that. So
I just imagine, like you're saying, he's got a bunch of flowery language here, and as he's carrying on, and you guys start read back to me what I just said, and whoever's recording things like, no, switch that word on, and it's just it took forever.
I think it would be fascinating to know the exact process they used. Yeah, maybe after we're raptured and I get into heaven and hey, Milton, I got a question for you.
Right, or he gave an oration, and then he comes back the next day and he has whatever he said reread back to him.
Yeah.
It's like,
Let's go over yesterday's stuff
yeah,
and let's revise it.
yeah,
And oh no, that's not right.
yeah.
That needs to be a little more interesting. Let's do this.
Right,
Yeah. Line break. Yeah. So 618 to 643, Raphael smiles. He explains, this is interesting, when spirits embrace, their essences combine. So when we hug, it's just, you're just holding on to somebody, but they just occupy the same space. Well, they're spiritual, so is it space? I don't know. He then tells Adam that he is free to stand or fall and to repel all temptations. So he has the ability to repel or to resist temptation. 644 to 653, so saying, he arose, whom Adam thus followed with benediction. Since depart, go, heavenly guest, ethereal messenger, sent from whose sovereign goodness I adore. Gentle to me and affable hath been thy condescension, and shall be honored ever with grateful memory. Thou to mankind be good and friendly still, and oft return. So Adam is talking to Raphael here, and he's being very gracious. And he says, go, leave if you must, Raphael, spiritual messenger sent from God, the God I adore. You have been gentle and easy to talk to during your time here, and will honor you with good memories. You have been good to mankind and return often. So parted they, the angel up to heaven from the thick shade, and Adam to his bower. That's self-explanatory. So they part. Raphael to heaven, Adam to his bed. So Adam was tired. Good grief. I wasn't trying to go fast.
These are both pretty short.
Yeah.
I saw.
653 lines is one of the shorter books. So We have plenty of time for questions and discussion.
I had a question about kind of how Adam is set up in this chapter. I feel like earlier in the story, when Eve explained like her origin story, we kind of got a picture of like Eve's vanity and how that is probably something that Satan is going to use to like tempt her into sin. And I feel like in this chapter, we kind of got a picture of Adam and how he will be tempted into sin. Because in this conversation with Raphael, he talks about basically how Eve's beauty is like so intoxicating that it like blots out all reason and like drives him to these passions.
Yes.
And Raphael is like, you need to chill. Like he says like basically like true love refines reason and wisdom, and it shouldn't kill that
Overpower it.
off. Yeah,
Right.
it should enrich your wisdom and your capacity as
Yeah.
a person, which I thought was really interesting. So I was like, okay, so that's what I'm going to be looking for when we do get to the fall conversation, I guess.
Yeah. And that's a really good observation. Seeing Adam's infatuation, I guess is the best word. He sees Eve and he goes, whoa, okay. This is great. I like this. And then she leaves. And he goes to her and says, hold on. You know, you were made for me. You came from me, this and that and the other. And yes, when he's talking to Raphael, he's saying, and she looks at me. And I just go, whoa. And actually in book 9, we're going to see him say, okay, we may not get as much work done together because I keep looking at you. And she's like, well, let's work apart then. It's like, no, but I like, that's okay. Yeah. So yeah, Adam is, smitten is a gentle term for what Adam is. And he got exactly what he asked for. I mean, this is a person who is his helper, who is his other half. I mean, she was made for him. So, I mean, how much better could it get?
She doesn't know what it's like to not have him.
Right.
So that, I think that's a big impact on her walking away.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Having been created from Adam and within minutes of her creation, they're together and they're always together. Whereas before Adam, he was a bachelor, had his own pad. You know, he had a job. He was lonely, you know. And then he goes, God, little help here. And he provides a helper. And she's just all about him. Because, I mean, she says early on, Adam, you're blessed because you have, or I'm more fortunate because I have you, but you have God and you can't see God, but I can see you. It's like,
But now, to add to that though, I was thinking, she walks away because she didn't know all of this at first. She didn't know. She just didn't know. She didn't know the whole scheme of things, whole plan.
Mhm.
So she walks away not knowing, and he pursues her.
yes. So if you recall, early on, she talks about going to the pond and seeing her reflection, not knowing it was her. And so Milton is making her seem like she's simple. Okay.
I don't want to discount it, you know, Adam's been through a lot up until the point Eve entered his life. And he talks about, he basically tells God, I'm not complete. And so God says, he picked up on that.
Yeah.
And so when Eve comes into his world, he's like, sweet, I'm going to be complete. Eve doesn't have that ideal at all.
Right.
She's like, I don't need to be complete. She probably rolls out and is like, wow, look at all these animals and look at all this vegetation.
That's
Like,
right.
oh,
That's right.
I've seen all this. You're here to complete me. She's like, who are you?
Right. That's right.
This is one of these other animals that just happens to resemble me.
She doesn't know
Yeah.
what it's like to be without. She never experienced.
Yeah. She was never a bachelorette on her own with her own pad. You know, maybe if God had made her separately and and then they came together, organically, but that's not how it worked. So, but that's a very interesting point where Eve has never been alone. All she's known is Adam. I think after the first maybe 5 minutes of her creation, then she goes, oh, Adam. Because she talks about going to the pond, seeing her reflection, not knowing it was her, backing up and going back. And that's interesting. And then she hears a voice that's not Adam saying, no, that's you. Turn around and go back. And that's when she hears Adam and she goes to him. So,
I think Milton's setting around, but to a degree, because even like when Raphael's talking to Adam, you don't, Eve doesn't get to say anything or ask anything.
right.
So just kind of eavesdropping.
So if you extrapolate from this story to Milton's life, what can you infer about Milton and his attitude toward women?
Well, I mean, wasn't he ditched right after we got married?
Yes. His first marriage, his wife left him almost before they even consummated their marriage. She went home to be with dad. She was 17, he was 34. Okay, who can blame her? But she goes home to dad, and part of it is that she might not have agreed with Milton's politics. Like, what 17-year-old cares about politics? Well, yeah, I think he is. Well, and one of the nonfiction works that he wrote was a treatise on how we really need divorce.
Listening in our first class where you were talking about his marriage and kind of how things went, it reminded me a lot of in the Scarlet Letter when they reveal Hester Prynne's marriage.
Mhm.
And how she was married to this older guy who like basically was obsessed with his work and kind of ignored her all the time and
Yep.
how isolated like that. I was like, okay, I feel like this is the marriage that I'm getting a description of right here.
And then Adam is or when you talk about Milton, yeah, and then fortunately no Reverend Dimsdale, was it?
Yeah,
Comes along and takes his wife away. I mean, at least that didn't happen in Milton's life, but because she does eventually reconcile with him and go back, and she bears him 3 daughters and a son. So they did live happily ever after until she died. She died shortly after their youngest daughter was born, and then he married again. She died, he married again. She died, he married again. Then he died. So kind of like Henry VIII, I guess. But at least he didn't divorce anybody. So yeah, he was. I don't know what it was. I mean, by the time his 3rd and 4th wives, he was already blind.
Yeah, but wasn't he like really rich?
He was well off, yeah.
I'm just saying. I can see why someone would be
So,
like,
well, okay. And you think about women at that time, what did they have? They had to marry in order to maintain their lifestyle. It's certainly not the reason to get married now, but especially if your husband's a teacher. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna have to look at the next. Well, next week is book 9, that's all we're gonna do is book 9. And if you don't read any other book of Paradise Lost, read book 9 because it is rich. I mean, it is linguistically, literarily, imagely. I don't know if that's a word, but it's just a rich, rich book. And it's I think it's the premier book of Paradise Lost, and that's why I'm spending a whole hour and a half or however long we have on it. 2 hours, hour and a half, I don't know, hour and a half. So, because it is, if we could go line by line through that book, I would. But again, our time will be limited, but we'll be able to do more than we have in these books because it's some of the best writing that I think Milton has in all of his literature. just because of the way the story flows and the interaction between the characters. It's just an amazing thing to read and to comprehend. And I think it's a little bit easier because there's less of that flowery language. So it's more narrative. But it's really, really amazing. So um, anything else? Comments on either one of these books or anything so far?
I will say that this last book, 8, has reminded me a lot of a sci-fi movie that I really love, which is kind of a retelling of Adam and Eve in the garden. It's called Passengers, and
Yeah.
it came out like probably 5 years ago.
Um,
It's
Chris Pratt and
Jennifer Lawrence.
yes, we saw that.
But it's a very interesting exploration of like kind of Adam being alone in the garden and like longing for companionship, and then Eve kind of coming into his life. I mean, granted, again, this is all like, it's a sci-fi, so it's like people on a spaceship and like it's
Two people wake up too early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
I
just
never
the-
thought of it as being an Adam and Eve allegory. I mean, I'll have to watch it again with that in mind.
He wakes her up.
Yeah, yeah.
He
It's,
takes, yeah, I was gonna say, they don't both wake up. He imposes.
Interesting. Okay. So that great Christian movie, Passengers, as Tommy would say. So, okay, anything else?
Anybody online?
I'm sorry?
Did that person ask the question again?
No. So the question was, is Milton making a statement on the state of society at that time as well? And I'm not really sure. I may have seen that question after we got past. So, Cherry, if you could restate that question and maybe give me the line numbers that you're referring to, if possible, or you can send me an email and I'll, unless somebody's texting me about it. And let's see. Nope. Okay. Well, I'm glad the audio works better because I got the other microphone right here, so maybe it's picking you up better. I don't know. We'll see. So if there's nothing else, next week we're going to do book 9. And like I said, it's good, and it deserves 2 weeks, but we're only going to do 1. So, thank you for coming.
in particular.